Leon Kennedy and Chris Redfield are two of Capcom's most iconic characters, being the main faces behind its most iconic IP. And seeing as how crazy of a run Leon Kennedy has been on, the past 5 games of Resident Evil, 3 of them had Leon in them. Some of them are remakes, but still, Leon is the first thing that pops up to recent memory when it comes to the face of this franchise. But today I want to compare him to who people consider the true protagonist of the entire Resident Evil series, the big boulder Chris Redfield. I just recently finished RE5 and RE8 just so I would have more context for this fight, as I have also completed Resident Evil 4 Remake and Resident Evil Requiem. Before we move ahead, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the video, and don't forget to drop your thoughts on my take in the comment section down below, because in my opinion, I believe I picked out a fair winner. So, we're gonna go the way of statistics, basically comparing each and every characteristic a fighter should have when getting into a fight: his strength, speed or agility, durability, skill and tactics. Now with that out of the way, let's get straight to it. Strength. Now both of these characters are borderline superhuman in terms of every stat, and first let's start off with the big guy. I'm 100% sure Chris Redfield eats 100 times the chicken, rice and broccoli diet that most bodybuilders and action stars do, because in Resident Evil 5, the stuff he was doing was way out of anyone's capabilities. There was literally a moment where he punched a rocket launcher into Wesker, and have you seen his punches on regular zombies? I'd rather face a beat down from Mike Tyson himself than go anywhere near Chris Redfield. This is some serious striking power. And depending on who you personally see to be the strongest overall character of Resident Evil, Wesker still has a very solid and arguable case for that position. He's more powerful than any tyrant that has come before him, including Nemesis by the way. Wesker can also hold an entire rocket launcher in the palm of his hand, coming right at him, and he's durable enough to take said rocket launcher right to the face. Yet for all that, I'm pretty sure nothing hit worse than successful punches from those gigantic arms. And how could we ever forget the most iconic moment in Resident Evil history, the infamous boulder punch. For context, a very huge and giant boulder like the one Chris punched generally weighs above 130 tons. That's right, 130 tons. And to put that into even broader daylight, it weighs in the same range as heavy industrial cranes that you see during construction. One more feat that is massively underrated and might be overlooked is one seen during Resident Evil 6, when Chris is fighting House. He is forced to hold a huge blast door which weighed right on him, constantly bashing upon him whilst he was trying to save Pierce. To give you some more clarity, a blast door weighs somewhere between 25 to 40 tons. And Chris was not only holding it up pretty well, he was doing so when the entire facility was shaking and cracking up, literally tearing itself apart. Chris is a monster, but let's see how Leon stacks up against his strength. Leon is strong, far stronger than most of real life humans on the planet. His strength is showcased on several occasions, and two that always pop up in my head are the ones where he uses harpoons to hold onto the Del Lago monster, and also the whale in RE6. Generally speaking, he's also powerful enough to break a person's neck with one proper roundhouse kick. Now in terms of pure lifting, it might not rank up much against Chris Redfield, but Leon's way more of a striker than a lifter. Leon is powerful enough to stop a punch from Mr. X, strong enough to parry rockets, and also strong enough to kill huge mutated beings like a Nemesis and Mr. X with his hatchet. RE9 Leon is a different beast when it comes to striking. Even in RE4 Remake, he was going toe to toe with Jack Krauser in terms of hand to hand combat, and Krauser had already gotten mutated by then. Hell, even pre-mutation, he was said to be the penultimate soldier that has ever lived. So he might even be nearing Chris's tier of strength as a character. And if you were to include movies as well in Degeneration, he held up that huge monster when dangling down for his dear life, and also managed to kick a tyrant in Vendetta. Hell, he even killed Maria in Death Island, and Maria is a superhuman. Maria can easily punch through steel and concrete and even bend it. Both the fighters are very strong, but I've got to give strength to Chris Redfield. Chris's boulder feat not only outshines any of Leon's lifting feats, but his striking strength is on par if not greater than Leon's, because Chris's strikes were powerful enough to damage Wesker, and Wesker is one of the most durable characters in the entire franchise. Strength goes to Chris, no doubt in my mind. Speed. Now I don't want to bore you with long explanations because we all know this clearly goes to Leon Kennedy. Whilst Chris's whole style depends on him throwing hands using his massive muscle mass, Leon's is much more of an adaptive and flexible martial artist kind of fighting style. You'll see him bounce around, dashing, doing backflips, and doing crazy stunts from time to time. I think the movies do a great job at highlighting Leon's speed, especially Vendetta, where he's so fast in both the hallway scene and the tyrant fight scene. Like I mentioned before, mutated Jack Krauser in the games was a beast. And if you have played the game, you know for a fact that Krauser can easily dodge bullets if he wanted to. I mean, the guy dashes like a trickster from side to side at such a pace that even his opponent can barely perceive him. But not only can Leon be adept enough to parry it, but also fast enough to dodge his way through them. Even in RE9, Leon was fast enough to try to give a decent fight to Zeno, Vesker's clone, whilst literally being near death's door. Oh, and Leon can also dodge lasers, as well as the Verdugo strikes in its boss fight, the Verdugo being a xenomorph type beast. Chris is no slouch either because for his size he's actually pretty fast. The guy can react to some of Wesker's moves. Wesker is easily the fastest character in the franchise in my opinion, and Chris can even keep up with an amped up Jill Valentine, who was by the way almost as fast as Leon, even when she was purely human. Even in the actual small fight between Chris and Leon, you can see Leon's faster, but it's not like Chris can't react to his strikes as if he were a statue. Leon is getting slower and slower with age, let's not forget. But it's still not enough to say that there is a case for Chris being faster than Leon, but the gap between them is not as large as you think it is. Durability. Now, this is where it can be a bit dicey. Both of these characters are incredibly durable and have taken beatings that should have broken their entire body into tiny pieces. Let's start with Leon. Leon's back better be made of vibranium, because in each and every single game of the franchise, I have seen this man's back survive the nastiest falls. Hell, it may be even worse than the movies. There's this one scene in Resident Evil Damnation where Leon was picked up like a baseball and thrown towards a literal pillar, as if the tyrant was a pitcher and Leon's back should have been decimated, but he still got up and moved pretty fast. One thing that also I should include in durability is resilience and endurance, because those help people survive longer in fights, and damn, Leon sure has loads of both. He got infected twice, once in RE4 and again in Requiem, yet even though in both games you see the virus keep on eating away at his body, he still performs superhuman feats on a regular basis, still taking those rock hard punches from Mr. X or any other tyrant. My man has fought them all. Ustanak, Sadler, a Nemesis. He can even take hits from Simmons, who has the case with Wesker or Alexia to be the most powerful character in the entire franchise. And Leon took minimal damage. My guy didn't even look all that bruised. Point is, Leon can take a good beating and keep moving forward, shrugging it off like it's another Tuesday, but is it as good as Chris Redfield? I can with 100% certainty say that Chris has taken the greatest number of beatings in the Resident Evil franchise, almost all of them coming from Wesker himself. Do you remember that beating in Code Veronica? Wesker's punches should have been enough to break through the hardest of metals, but apparently they're not as strong as Chris's bones, as even though having taken a legendary beating, he still managed to get back up. Not only that, he also managed to take hits from Alexia Ashford, who can be debated as being the top 3 in franchise in terms of power. Do I really need to even emphasize on the amount of beatings Chris has taken in Resident Evil 5 through Wesker's hands? And in Resident Evil 8, he can also block attacks successfully from that big hammer-wielding creature, whilst being all human, no mold at all. In my opinion, Chris has taken beatings from the most powerful characters in the franchise, bigger and better than almost all opponents Leon has faced. And with each and every game, he has just gotten more experienced and likely more durable. You can make the case for Leon because the movies did him way better than Chris, and Chris took a beating from a human whilst Leon was fighting against the whole tyrant in Vendetta. And Leon can even take direct hits from someone like Maria, but I am a firm believer of quality over quantity, which is why my personal pick is Chris Redfield. Skill. Skill is another thing that is difficult to choose between the two of them because they possess two very different skill sets. Chris is a soldier through and through, which means he has one of the best combat training a person could possibly undergo. But his fighting skill is not as diverse and varied as Leon's is. Chris is more of a tactician rather than a martial artist, whereas in my opinion, Leon is almost as skilled if not more in terms of firearms as Chris is. I mean, did you see the hallway fight scene in Vendetta? But in hand-to-hand CQC, I really believe Leon has the edge over Chris. Leon has fought and defeated Krauser, and that too in a knife fight. And in Resident Evil Requiem, we see much more of his weapon mastery as he uses nearby tools with precise aim for quick executions, and has a hatchet instead of a knife this time, which means brutality and aggression have been taken a notch up. And don't even get me started on this man's parrying skill, okay? I swear to God, if you tell me Leon can successfully parry a fully charged Kamehameha, I would not be surprised at all. When it comes down to a 1v1, it's all hands, the edge is certainly over to Leon. Tactics. Now, this section encompasses one's intelligence when it comes to battle, basically what everyone in the Versus fandom calls battle IQ, and also including normal IQ. Both of these men are extremely intelligent, and you'd have to be if you're operating in the positions that they are operating in. Chris has been leading the fight against BOWs for decades, and whichever organization is threatening the world with bioterrorism, whether it be Umbrella or Neo Umbrella, Chris is there to foil their plans by using his iconic squad of highly trained soldiers and exceptional military tactical knowledge. Chris, like I said, is a soldier through and through. Being prepared for each and every scenario is kind of his thing. Okay, it's kind of his whole job. He'll be the person who analyzes each and every terrain present on the battlefield, analyze weaknesses and spaces to exploit, whilst also keeping backup on the ready if needed. And by backup, I mean a literal mortar being launched on your face. And in my opinion, amongst all the main protagonists of the franchise, Chris is by far the most stocked and equipped character. He will be carrying heavy gear right into battle, even if it might slow him down a bit because he wants to have a lot of options when entering a battlefield, laying all sorts of traps, all angles for gunning a target down being covered. Chris has it all laid out. But you know who else was like that? Jack Krauser. Krauser's second boss fight is where Leon's tactical genius comes into play, because what Chris does with prep time can be undone through adaptation. Leon Kennedy is not much of a planner, he's more of a quick thinker. He would get into a fight and would start analyzing every single move his opponent makes and how to dodge them, and he can afford to do that because he's too quick to be caught. And even if he is caught, he has the backbone to take on the hits. Leon also hosts high IQ because in Resident Evil 4, we see him crack almost all of the island's puzzles whilst knowing nothing about the cult beforehand. Even I was baffled by some of them as to how Leon was doing all that. Doesn't mean Chris is a dumb bozo with no IQ, because he has more knowledge about the world and information than anyone else in the franchise. Okay, he knows it all. But like I said, both are different type of tacticians. One's a planner, the other is a quick thinker. And in battle, both of them could be really crucial. But you might say that Leon beat Krauser, then by default he would beat Chris, right? Right? And to that I say, no. That is not the same, because Jack Krauser and Chris Redfield differ in one important aspect, despite being absolute units, and that is mindset. Jack was egotistical. The guy was so filled with pride that he wanted to boast his powers in front of Leon. Hell, he might have even killed Leon if he wanted to on several occasions, had it not been for his infinite plot armor. Chris is a different breed than that, because for him, the mission is everything. Jack Krauser stopped being a soldier, but Chris never stopped being a soldier. And Chris will not hesitate when given the shot to kill his enemy. He has to see it through. No more failure for him. Even in Resident Evil 5, he was getting himself the beating of a lifetime only because Wesker is, well, too damn powerful. But with enough patience and grit, Chris was the one to end his life. And have we forgotten about Alexia Ashford? A character even Wesker was afraid to face off against. Wesker ran for his dear life when confronted by her and left Chris alone with her. You'd think Chris would become mush by the time 10 seconds have passed, but in true Redfield fashion, he triumphs. He beat Alexia Ashford, a literal pyromaniac goddess. So, don't get me wrong, both of them are exceptional in terms of strategies and tactics, but it depends on what you prefer as a fighter. And in my opinion, Chris has the clear edge. He's far more experienced and far more equipped to deal with a battle than Leon is. So, this point goes to Chris. In conclusion, it seems we have a winner, and it is our favorite Trenbolone addict, Chris Redfield. Leon is a demon. He is a beast. His endurance is on another level. I'm pretty sure he's the third son of Sparta. But so is Chris. Where Leon is always on the move, Chris plans all of his moves and moves accordingly. When both of them would be fighting, it'll really kind of depend in which sort of environment they're fighting in. If they're fighting in a closed and tight space, Leon's superior CQC skills will definitely give him the advantage so long as he doesn't let Chris wrestle him around like a bear. But keep them in an open field and Redfield will use every single angle for Leon to be destroyed by, and unlike Krauser, he will not hesitate to pull the trigger. If you like this video, please don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel. This is the Devil Crow, and I will see you later.